The rain came down in sheets that night, turning the narrow streets of Seville into rivers of regret. I slammed the car door, my heels sinking into the muddied gravel of the driveway, and stared up at the villa's arched windows, glowing like accusatory eyes in the storm. "Liliana, you can't do this." Arabella's voice had cracked over the phone earlier that day, but here I was, uninvited, unannounced, ready to shatter everything we'd built. My name is Liliana Morales, and for the past 8 months, I'd been the invisible thread stitching together the chaos of Arabella Rossi's art gallery. She was my boss, the woman whose sharp wit and unyielding vision had pulled me from the brink of burnout in New York, luring me across the Atlantic with promises of sun-soaked inspiration in Spain. At 35, I was supposed to be the steady one. The architect turned curator, with blueprints of failed relationships tucked away like old drafts. Arabella, 37, was the whirlwind, Italian roots tangled with American bravado, her auburn hair always tousled as if she'd just stepped out of a heated argument with the universe itself. We'd met in a fluorescent-lit conference room back in Manhattan, but it was here, in the labyrinthine alleys of Andalusia, that our worlds began to bleed into one another. That afternoon's work meeting was meant to be routine. Finalize the catalog for her upcoming exhibit on exiled artists, a theme that hit too close to home for both of us. I'd driven from Córdoba in a rented Fiat, the radio humming flamenco tunes that mocked my racing pulse. Arabella's villa perched on the outskirts of Seville, a restored 18th-century hacienda with terracotta tiles and wrought iron balconies that whispered of forgotten passions. As I approached the heavy oak door, thunder rumbled like a warning, and I hesitated, my fist hovering. What was I really doing here? The email from her assistant had been curt. Urgent revisions needed. Come at 7 p.m. sharp. But it was the postscript that gnawed at me, scrawled in Arabella's looping handwriting on the printed invite. "Don't be late, Leah. We have unfinished business." I knocked, the sound swallowed by the downpour. The door swung open almost immediately, and there she was, silhouetted against the warm flicker of candles inside. Arabella's green eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, were shadowed, her linen shirt untucked and sleeves rolled up to her elbows. "Liliana," she said, her voice a mix of surprise and something sharper, like relief laced with dread. "You're soaked. Come in before you drown us both." I stepped inside, water pooling at my feet on the saltillo tiles, the scent of jasmine and aged wood enveloping me like an embrace I didn't deserve. The villa's interior was a testament to her eclectic soul. Walls lined with canvases of fractured landscapes, bookshelves groaning under volumes of poetry in 3 languages, and a grand fireplace crackling against the chill. She handed me a towel, our fingers brushing in that electric way that had become our secret language, brief, accidental, devastating. "Sit," she commanded, gesturing to the leather armchair by the fire. "Wine? It's the only thing that makes these storms bearable." Her smile was forced, a crack in the facade she wore so well for the world. I nodded, peeling off my drenched jacket, and watched as she poured 2 glasses of deep red Tempranillo from a decanter on the sideboard. The liquid swirled like blood in water, and I wondered if that's what this night would become, a spilling of truths too long contained. We started with the catalog, spreading proofs across the low oak table. "The layout's off here," I said, pointing to a double-page spread of a somber portrait by a forgotten Catalan painter. "It needs more breathing room. Let the pain echo." Arabella leaned in, her shoulder grazing mine, and for a moment the storm outside faded. "You're right," she murmured, her breath warm against my ear. "Always cutting to the heart of it, Leah." That nickname, Leah, had slipped from her lips one drunken evening in Granada, after too many glasses of sherry and a moonlit walk through the Alhambra's gardens. We'd laughed about lovers lost to wars and wanderlust, our hands linking briefly under the stars. But we'd never crossed that line, not fully. She was my boss, I her subordinate. She the openly queer force of nature, I the closeted architect still rebuilding walls around my heart after Elena's betrayal back in Brooklyn. Elena with her promises of forever that dissolved like sugar in rain. As the evening deepened, the work dissolved into something more perilous. Arabella refilled our glasses, her movements graceful but edged with restlessness. "Tell me about New York," she said suddenly, settling onto the rug by the fire, knees drawn up like a girl confessing secrets. "What ghost are you running from, really?" I laughed, a hollow sound. You make it sound so dramatic. It's just life. Dead-end job, dead-end love. Elena wanted kids, a picket fence in the suburbs. I wanted skylines in solitude. The words tumbled out unbidden, fueled by the wine and the way her eyes held mine. Patient, probing, alive with that American fire she'd inherited from her immigrant parents. Elena, Arabella repeated, tasting the name like a bitter pill. She sounds like a fool. You deserve more than fences, Leah. You deserve cathedrals. Her hand reached out then, tracing the scar on my knuckle from a childhood fall off my abuela's roof in Miami. The touch lingered, and the air thickened, charged with the unspoken. Outside, lightning forked across the sky, illuminating the courtyard's olive trees in stark relief. We talked for hours, about her gallery's precarious funding, the visa battles that kept her tethered to Spain, the way art had saved us both from our own exiles. Laughter came in waves, then silence heavy as the rain. At midnight, as thunder shook the foundations, Arabella stood abruptly. I can't do this anymore, she whispered, her voice breaking. Pretend it's just work. My heart seized. Arabella! But she was already moving, pulling a drawer from the sideboard with trembling hands. Inside lay a stack of letters, yellowed at the edges, tied with faded ribbon. Read this, she said, thrusting one toward me. It was from her ex, Sophia. A name I'd heard in passing, a ghost from her Rome days. The words blurred under my gaze. Accusations of infidelity, pleas for reconciliation, dated just last week. You got these? And you didn't say anything. Shock warred with a sudden irrational jealousy in my chest. She sank back onto the rug, head in hands. I thought I could handle it alone. Like always. But seeing you here tonight, it rips everything open. Tears traced silent paths down her cheeks, and without thinking I knelt beside her, pulling her into my arms. She stiffened, then melted, her sobs muffled against my shoulder. The storm raged on, but in that moment, the world narrowed to the salt of her tears on my skin, the frantic beat of her heart against mine. We stayed like that until the rain eased to a drizzle, the fire reduced to embers. I'm sorry, she murmured finally, pulling back but not fully. Her eyes searched mine, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. For dragging you into my mess. It's not a mess, I said softly, my thumb brushing a stray lock from her forehead. It's you. And I've been waiting for this, I think. The admission hung between us, fragile as spun glass. Then slowly she leaned in, her lips brushing mine. Not a kiss, not yet, but a promise. The villa creaked around us, secrets settling into the walls, and I knew. This night had changed everything. Dawn crept in like a thief, painting the villa's whitewashed walls in hues of rose and amber. I woke on the rug, Arabella's head pillowed on my lap, her breathing steady in sleep. The letters lay scattered like fallen leaves, Sophia's words a poison seeping into the morning light. I eased away gently, covering her with a throw blanket woven in vibrant Berber patterns. A gift from her travels in Morocco. In the kitchen I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead, the aroma mingling with the faint brine of last night's rain. Arabella found me there, leaning against the counter, staring out at the courtyard where puddles mirrored the sky. She looked younger in the soft light, freckles dusting her nose like cinnamon, her hair a wild halo. Morning, she said, voice husky from tears. She accepted the mug I handed her, our fingers lingering again, that now familiar spark. Morning. I managed a smile, but the weight of the letters pressed on me. How are you feeling? Exposed, she admitted, sipping slowly. Like I've stripped bare in front of a critic who hates my work. A wry laugh escaped her. But lighter too. Thank you, Leah, for staying. We ate breakfast on the terrace, fresh figs from the garden, crusty bread, and manchego cheese. Talking around the edges of what had happened. The exhibit loomed large, opening in 2 weeks at her gallery in Seville's Triana district, a showcase of women artists displaced by Franco's shadow. It's personal, she explained, gesturing with a figure. My nana fled Mussolini's Italy in '38. These paintings, they're her unspoken stories, mine. I nodded, sketching idle notes on a napkin, ideas for lighting the space to evoke twilight exiles. But beneath the professional patina, something simmered. As we cleared the table, her hand caught mine. Last night wasn't just the wine talking, was it? No, I whispered, heart pounding. It was the storm. And us. She kissed me then, properly soft, exploratory, tasting of coffee and figs. It was tentative at first, then deepening, her hands framing my face as if I were a fragile sculpture. Time suspended. The world beyond the villa's walls ceased to exist. When we parted, breathless, she rested her forehead against mine. I've wanted this since that first pitch in New York. Your passion. The way you see the fractures in things and make them beautiful. And I've been afraid, I confessed, of losing the job, the stability, of opening up again after Elena. We spent the day in a haze of rediscovery, wandering the villa's hidden garden, where bougainvillea cascaded like waterfalls of fuchsia, sketching together under the arbor, her bold strokes contrasting my precise lines. Laughter came easier, stories flowing. Her wild college years in Boston, protesting art censorship. My abuela's tales of Cuban resilience over cafecito in Little Havana. By afternoon, we'd mapped out the exhibit's finale, an interactive installation where visitors could exile their own regrets on paper lanterns, set afloat in a reflecting pool. But as the sun dipped toward the Sierra Morena, a shadow fell. My phone buzzed. Elena. The text was innocuous. Heard you're in Spain. Miss our talks. Coffee when you're back. I deleted it, but the ghost lingered. Arabella noticed my distraction. Old flames? She asked lightly, but her eyes held a flicker of fear. Just echoes. I pulled her close, burying doubts in the curve of her neck. That night we cooked paella in the villa's cavernous kitchen, saffron threads staining our fingers gold. Over candlelight, she opened up about Sophia. The fiery romance in Rome, the betrayal when Sophia chose her family's expectations over their life together. She said I was too American, too free. Left me for a suitable match. Arabella's voice cracked. It broke something in me, Leah. Made me build walls higher than the Alhambra. I took her hand. Then let's tear them down. Together. Sealing the pact, we danced to an old vinyl of Billie Holiday spinning on her turntable, slow, swaying steps across the tiled floor, her head on my shoulder. It felt like homecoming, this fragile blooming. But dawn brought reality. I had to return to my apartment in Córdoba, she to the gallery's endless demands. At the door she pressed a key into my palm. For whenever you need it. Or I do. Driving back, the highway unspooled like a ribbon through olive groves, my mind replaying her touch, her laugh. For the first time in years, hope felt tangible, not a blueprint but a living thing. The next week blurred into a rhythm of stolen moments. Late-night calls across provinces, her voice a lifeline. Weekend dashes to Seville, where we'd lose ourselves in the Alcazar's maze of patios and fountains. The exhibit preparations intensified. Shipments arriving from Madrid. Artists flying in for previews. Arabella thrived in the chaos, her energy magnetic, drawing donors like moths to flame. I watched her work the room at a pre-opening soiree in a converted convent, her laughter ringing as she charmed a skeptical collector. You're incredible, I whispered later in a shadowed alcove. So are you, she replied, kissing me fiercely. My secret weapon. But cracks appeared subtly at first. A hushed phone call she took in the gallery's back office, her face paling. Whispers from staff about investors pulling out. I chalked it up to stress, pouring myself into the details. Curating the audio guide with flamenco-infused narrations, ensuring the lanterns for the installation were hand-blown in Murano. Then the betrayal landed like a thunderclap. It was a Thursday evening, 2 days before the opening. I'd surprised her at the villa with takeout from a hole-in-the-wall tapas bar. Patatas bravas and gambas al ajillo, her favorites. The door was ajar, light spilling onto the path. Inside, voices. Hers laced with desperation and another familiar, accented with that Roman lilt. Sophia. I froze in the foyer, the paper bags crinkling in my grip. Through the cracked door to the study I saw them. Arabella at her desk, head bowed. Sophia pacing, elegant in a tailored suit, her dark hair pinned in a severe chignon. You think you can just erase me, Bella? After everything. Sophia's tone was velvet over steel. The gallery's hemorrhaging money. My family's offering a lifeline, strings attached, yes, but stability. Marry Luca, secure the funding. It's practical. Arabella's reply was a whisper. I can't. Not anymore. I found someone. Sophia laughed, cold. That American hireling? The one with the sad eyes? She's temporary, darling. Like all your flings. The word sliced me deeper than any blade. Temporary. I backed away, heart hammering, but my heel caught a loose tile, a clatter that echoed like gunfire. Silence fell, then footsteps. Arabella burst into the hall, eyes wide. Leah? What? Sophia appeared behind her, appraising me with cool disdain. Ah, the interloper. She extended a hand, manicured nails gleaming. Sophia Vitali, Bella's former partner. I ignored it, staring at Arabella. You didn't tell her about us? Arabella faltered, glancing back. It's complicated. The funding. Complicated. My voice rose raw. Or just convenient. The bag slipped from my hands, spilling shrimp across the floor like scattered accusations. Sophia smirked. See? Drama. This is why you need me, Bella. Not this. I turned and fled into the night, the door slamming behind me like a final judgment. Rain had started again, slicking the gravel as I gunned the engine. Betrayal burned hot in my veins. Not just Sophia's intrusion, but Arabella's hesitation, the way she'd let the past eclipse our fragile now. Miles blurred by, Seville's lights fading in the rearview, until I pulled over on a deserted road, sobs racking me under the indifferent stars. Back in Córdoba, I threw myself into work. Final tweaks to the exhibit from afar, emails clipped and professional. Arabella's texts piled up. Apologies, explanations, please. Sophia showed up unannounced. She's bluffing about the funding. Please talk to me. I read them in the dead of night, fingers hovering over reply, but silence was my shield. The opening night arrived like a storm front. I almost didn't go, almost let the hurt fester into goodbye. But the art called, a siren song of resilience. Dressed in a simple black shift that hugged my curves without apology, I slipped into the gallery amid the crowd. Seville's elite, expats in linen suits, critics with notepads at the ready. Flamenco guitarists strummed in the corners, the air scented with orange blossoms and anticipation. Arabella spotted me immediately, mid-conversation with the donor. She excused herself, weaving through bodies, her emerald gown flowing like liquid night. Up close, exhaustion hollowed her cheeks, but her eyes blazed. You came. For the art, I said coolly, though my pulse betrayed me. Not you. She winced. Leah, Sophia's gone. I told her no, everything. The funding's safe. I found backers in Madrid. But losing you. That's the real crisis. Voices swirled around us. Clinking glasses, murmurs of admiration for the lantern installation, where regrets bobbed like fireflies on the pool's surface. One caught my eye. Afraid to love again, scrawled in shaky script. My own unspoken fear. I saw the way you looked at her, I said, voice low. Like she still owned pieces of you. She did once. Arabella stepped closer, the crowd fading. But you make me want to rebuild. Whole. Her hand found mine, hidden in the folds of her skirt. Stay. Fight for this with me. The guitar swelled, a haunting Andalusian melody, and something in me cracked. Not broke, opened. I squeezed her hand, one step at a time. We moved through the night as partners, not boss and employee. Greeting guests, sharing stories of the artist's triumphs over tyranny. Laughter returned, tentative, then full-throated. As the evening wound down, we slipped away to the rooftop terrace. The city sprawled below like a jeweled map. Under the terrace's canopy of stars, Arabella pulled a lantern from her pocket. A small one crafted just for us. Write it, she said, handing me a marker. Whatever you'd set adrift. My hand trembled as I scrawled. Fear of being temporary. I lit the wick and we watched it float upward. A pinpoint of light joining the constellation of confessions. Your turn, I prompted. She wrote quickly, then released it. Clinging to ghosts. As it ascended, she turned to me, vulnerability etching lines around her mouth. Sophia was my anchor in a storm, Leah. But anchors sink you sometimes. You're the sail. We kissed there, with the Guadalquivir murmuring below and the galleries hum a distant lullaby. It was deeper than before, laced with forgiveness and fire, the kind that forges rather than consumes. Her hands traced my back, mapping scars I hadn't shared. Mine tangled in her hair, grounding us in the now. The weeks that followed were a tapestry of tentative joys. I sublet my Cordoba flat, moving into the villa's guest wing, a sunlit room with views of the Sierra Nevada on clear days. Mornings began with coffee on the terrace, her sketching while I pored over blueprints for a gallery expansion. Afternoons bled into gallery life, sourcing pieces from hidden ateliers in Ronda, negotiating with prickly landowners for pop-up exhibits in white villages. Arabella's world expanded mine. She dragged me to ferias in distant pueblos, where we'd dance sevillanas under lantern strings, her laughter infectious as castanets clicked. "Loosen up, architect," she teased, spinning me until the world whirled. In quieter moments we'd hike the pilgrim trails of the Camino, not for penance but perspective, pausing at crumbling hermitages to share dreams. Her vision for a foundation supporting queer artists in exile, my sketches for sustainable studios blending Moorish arches with solar panels. But love, like Andalusia's Sirocco winds, brought heat and haze. Doubts crept in during lulls. One evening, after a funding pitch in Madrid fell flat, Arabella withdrew, pacing the villa like a caged flamenco dancer. "What if I'm not enough?" she burst out, hurling a sketchpad across the room. Pages fluttered like wounded birds, studies of fractured faces, mirroring her own turmoil. "You're more than enough," I said, gathering them gently. But she pulled away, eyes stormy. "You don't get it, Leah. This life, it's feast or famine." Sophia understood that. She thrived on the risk. You're steady. What if I drag you under?" The words stung, echoing Elena's old refrains. "Steady isn't weak," I countered, voice steady despite the ache. "It's the foundation. Let me be that for you." She softened then, collapsing into my arms. "I'm scared of failing you." We made love that night, not with urgency but reverence. Slow explorations by firelight, whispers of affirmations weaving through touches. It healed something fractured, binding us tighter. Yet the true conflict brewed beyond our walls. Sophia hadn't vanished entirely. Her family's influence lingered in art circles, whispers of sabotage slithering through Seville's salons. It culminated at the gallery's Winter Salon, a showcase of emerging talents, including a young painter I'd championed, Rosa, whose abstracts captured the ache of migration. The night buzzed with promise. Velvet ropes, crystal flutes, the scent of clove-studded oranges. Arabella, radiant in a crimson gown, delivered a speech on resilience that left the room hushed. "Art isn't escape," she said, voice ringing. "It's defiance. A middle finger to those who say we don't belong." Applause thundered, but as guests mingled I overheard murmurs near the bar. "Rossi biting off more than she can chew. Heard her ex is funding a rival space in Granada. Poaching artists left and right." My blood chilled. Rosa approached me then, eyes downcast. "Liliana, I got an offer. Better exposure." "I'm sorry." The betrayal landed soft as a whisper, but it gutted me. Sophia's shadow striking at the heart. I found Arabella in the office staring at an email. Rosa's resignation CC'd to the board. "It's her," Arabella said flatly, crumpling the printout. "Sophia's pulling strings. She knows this exhibit is my lifeline." Rage simmered, but I tamped it. "We'll fight it. Together." She shook her head, defeated. "Or I cave. Accept their generous terms. Marry into the family, get the funding. Keep the gallery afloat." The room tilted. "What? After everything?" "It's not about love," she pleaded. "It's survival. For the artist, the space, the dream. And us." My voice broke. Am I just collateral? No. But she couldn't finish, tears spilling. I stormed out, weaving through the crowd, the salon's glamour turning claustrophobic. Outside, the December air bit sharp, Seville's Christmas lights mocking my unraveling. I drove aimlessly, ending up at the river's edge, where Triana bridges arched like unanswered prayers. Hours passed, phone silent. When it finally buzzed, "Arabella, come home. Please." I ignored it, curling into myself on a bench, the water's lap a dirge for what we'd lost. Dawn found me there, chilled to the bone. Back at the villa, she waited on the steps, wrapped in my old wool coat, eyes red-rimmed. "I told her no," she said as I approached, voice raw. "Sophia's people." Screamed it over the phone at 3 a.m. "The gallery might fold, but I won't sell my soul. Or you." Relief crashed over me, mingled with grief for the cost. We clung together, the sun rising on a battlefield of our making. Rebuilding began haltingly. Arabella rallied donors with a crowd fund infused with personal stories. Her Nana's exile diary digitized, shared online. I designed a leaner space. Pop-up shows in abandoned bodegas, virtual tours for global reach. Rosa returned contrite, her pieces reclaiming pride of place. Through it our bond deepened, tempered by fire. We adopted a stray cat from the streets, a tabby with one ear, named Defiance, and planted a garden of resilient herbs. Rosemary for remembrance, lavender for calm. Letters became our ritual. Weekly exchanges slipped under doors, vows and vulnerabilities inked on linen paper. Spring unfurled in riots of almond blossoms mirroring our thaw. A trip to the Costa de la Luz sealed it. Barefoot walks on windswept beaches, picnics of jamon and manchego under striped umbrellas. There, amid the roar of waves, Arabella proposed. Not with rings but words. Build a life with me, Leah. Not just here but everywhere. Exiles no more. Tears pricked my eyes. Yes, 1,000 times. But drama, as in any good story, demands a crescendo. It came in summer's heat, during the gallery's anniversary gala. A fusion of flamenco and contemporary dance, bodies twisting in ecstatic defiance. Midway through, as dancers swirled, a figure emerged from the shadows. Sophia, uninvited, elegant as venom in a sheath dress. She cornered us near the stage, champagne flute in hand. Bravo, bella. Such passion. Her gaze raked me dismissively. But passion starves. My offer stands, Luca's eager, and the funds are triple now. Arabella's jaw set. Get out. We're done. Sophia's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. Oh darling. You'll crawl back. You always do. She turned to me, voice syrupy. Enjoy her while she lasts. Tempests don't settle. The words ignited something primal. She's not a tempest, I snapped, stepping forward. She's a force. And you're the relic, clinging to control while the world moves on. Gasps rippled, heads turned. Sophia flushed, then sneered. Feisty. But you'll see. She swept away, leaving a wake of stunned silence. The gala teetered, but Arabella seized the mic, turning humiliation to triumph. Tonight, she declared, voice steady, we honor the storms we've weathered. To the exiles, the lovers, the fighters, salute. The crowd erupted, dancers resuming with fervor. And in the chaos we slipped away, hearts pounding in unison. Autumn arrived with a sigh, leaves turning the courtyard to gold. The gallery stabilized, not soaring but surviving on grants and grassroots love. We marked the milestone with a quiet dinner. Gazpacho chilled with mint, lamb tagine slow-cooked over embers, stories swapped like heirlooms. Arabella's hand in mine felt like permanence, the kind earned through tempests. Yet the humanistic core of our tale lay not in victory, but in the quiet reckonings. One crisp November evening, as mist rolled off the hills, Arabella fell ill. A stubborn flu that lingered, sapping her vibrancy. I nursed her through fevered nights, reading Neruda aloud until her breathing evened, broth spooned with care. In vulnerability, truth surfaced. Her fear of abandonment, rooted in her father's early death. My own from Elena's slow fade. A love eroded by unspoken needs. You're my home, Leah, she murmured one dawn, pale but smiling. Wherever we wander. Healing brought clarity. We planned a sabbatical 6 months trekking the Americas, from Miami's neon pulse to the Patagonian wilds, blending her art hunts with my architectural pilgrimages. No bosses, no exes, she joked. Just us chasing horizons. But before departure, conflict's final echo resounded. A letter arrived, Sophia's hand, postmarked Rome. Not threats but confession. I was wrong to meddle. Jealousy blinded me. Bella deserves her light. Tell her. I'm letting go. Enclosed was a check, substantial, anonymous in origin, for the gallery's youth program. Arabella read it by the fire, tears tracing familiar paths. She changed, she said softly. Or maybe we all did. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, I replied, drawing her close. It's freeing. We donated the funds threefold. Scholarships for young queer artists, a memorial wing for exiled creators, community workshops in Triana's underbelly. Sophia's gesture, redeemed, wove into our narrative, not as villain, but as the flawed human we'd all been. Winter solstice found us on the villa's roof, bundled in wool, stars pricking the velvet sky. Arabella sketched constellations on a notepad, naming them anew. Lea Major, the steady flame. I laughed, pulling her into a dance, slow circles to the distant strum of a neighbor's guitar. As snow dusted the olives, a rarity in Andalusia, we made promises under that fleeting white veil. Not grand vows but human ones, to weather betrayals with grace, to cherish the fractures that let light in, to love without possession. The gallery thrived in our absence, tended by a collective of protégés, Rosa among them, her abstracts now headlining shows. Postcards flew back. From Havana's crumbling facades, where I traced my roots. From Brooklyn's lofts, where Arabella unearthed forgotten dyke archives. Each missive a thread binding continents. Years folded like gallery folios. We returned to Spain seasonally, the villa our anchor, but home became fluid. A tent in the Atacama, a cabin in the Adirondacks. Arabella's foundation bloomed, scholarship seeding artists who painted their exiles into anthems. I designed spaces for them. Sunlit atria in Lisbon, resilient pavilions in Beirut. Betrayals faded to footnotes, but their lessons lingered. Reminders that love isn't absence of storm, but dancing in it. Elena wrote once years later. A wedding invite, her hand in a man's words of genuine joy. I sent regrets and a print of one of Arabella's favorites. Two figures entwined against a fractured skyline. Wishing you horizons, I noted. Sophia? We crossed paths at a biennale in Venice. Awkward nods evolving to coffee, then collaboration. Her suitable marriage dissolved amicably. She channeled energies into ethical patronage. You were right, she told Arabella over espresso. Tempests do settle into something stronger. Our ending? Not fairy tale neat but profoundly human. A life of chosen kinships, art as rebellion, love as quiet revolution. At 45, with silver threading our hair, we hosted a retrospective in Seville. Canvases of our journey, lanterns afloat with regrets long released. On opening night, amid applause and tears, Arabella took my hand on stage. To the surprising connections, she toasted, eyes locking on mine, that turn meetings into lifetimes. I raised my glass heartful. To us. And in that moment under Andalusian stars we were whole, not despite the drama but because of it. Exiles no more but wanderers forever entwined.